like big corporations can only really check your hire date, end date, and how much you were making.
Okay, cool. Also, I have those 2 roughs, the recordings we did yesterday of Bass from Michael. Cool. Yeah, I think you should check them out.
Okay.
They're pretty good.
Awesome.
Michael kills it in the studio.
They were there after us for the Psych Fest on Saturday at the Row Room. I didn't talk to him, but I saw him. He was getting set up.
Michael and Steve?
No, just Michael. I mean, they were renting it out for some show, or he was doing doors or something.
Yeah, he works at Row Room.
Oh, okay.
Crazy hours.
This is.
Were you there that technical production day where the whole class was doing, trying to get the Skype to work in Poncho? With the one day from IT.
I don't think I was there.
It was so brutal.
This is a little.
Can you try to get the roads and the roads are going up there?
Sorry?
Can you try to get the words are going for them too?
Oh yeah, where is that?
John's got it in there, but she wants the student to have 2 options for the roads and the Wurlitzer. And there's the speaker right next to it that's there, but they used to have a white cord. You know the white cord that plugs in the Wurlitzer?
The power cord?
Yeah, the power cord.
Okay.
Yesterday they must have been using the one power cord for the Wurlitzer, and then we put both in there, so they just want them both hooked up. Right now the road is just hooked up.
Yeah, I think
they're in Poncho, and there's a speaker right next to it. If you can.
So just hook it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Do you know what that is?
The Whirly. I think any extension cord will work. Any extension cord will work.
And are you guys using the studio, Alec? The drum Mark's studio at all?
No. Yeah.
Oh, we are?
We've been breaking off into doing sounds.
Tony's been opening it every morning, so he just wants to know if you should keep doing that.
I can open it and unlock it for him, and that might be better so then we don't. Now, and do we need to set Mark's stuff back up?
What's that?
Do we need to set all of Mark's kit back up? Because somebody broke Mark's kit down and we're using his stuff and we got it all back in there, but I don't know if we need to set his kit back up.
They didn't break it down, it was already like that.
Oh, okay.
We just moved it over.
Okay.
And there's 2 kits in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they were just like this, like right on top of each other.
Yeah.
Hey, need something? I'm working on your computer, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna work. I just want to check it. Hey, Alec, how are we doing?
We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to do the Skype stuff with John right now.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, I'll let you know if I hear anything back. Did anyone bring anything back to different?
Yeah, I think we got it taken care of.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do they have Logic on?
They're getting it.
I'm just going to install a school copy for the week for him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you don't need it? Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, we're still in the middle of it, but I'm thinking it's going to be okay.
So all she needs is an extension cord?
What is the situation?
Well, I think we need to move the Whirly in there for.
Didn't you say the Whirly was in there?
Oh, then we just need an extension cord. Roadbox A, that milk crate that's in the bottom should have a couple of extension cords.
So, okay, what's the code for that?
8238.
8238?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Ruby.
Yeah. Hey, Michael? So all she needs is an extension cord? You're lame.
finding each other on the interweb.
Stupid interweb.
Interweb.
It's even a dumb name. By the way, did you just give them the Wi-Fi key?
Yeah.
So the next they'll need the Apple ID, right?
Yeah, so they have to log out
Of theirs.
of theirs. It's aedmonds@cornish.edu. Password is !2. I already did for it, so not everybody's.
Yeah. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah.
Anything for breakfast yet?
Hey man,
There you go.
it's always sandwich time in my world. Alec, what's your email?
aedmonds@cornish.edu.
And they should be able to just log on and then download.
Sorry, what's that?
They should be able to just log on and download.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I'll have to log out of their account.
Okay.
And they make sure they both run all the updates before they do it.
On the
So
computer.
you have them log into their app store. I had one of them do it already, but have them log into their app store, download, run all the updates, so the computer's up to the most current thing. Because we're downloading the most current version of Logic. And I'd recommend him not downloading all the Apple loops.
Yeah.
Or maybe just not even.
No, I had a big.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it asked you that.
Um,
Okay. Thanks, man.
Cool. Is everything else good in there?
It's great.
Okay.
Do you need anything?
I just need to figure out why we're not getting the emails to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don actually wants to know what you usually plug the roads into. That's the problem.
Oh, for like an amp?
Yeah.
Give her that, DeVille, those like the Luxes or whatever, those, the fenders that we have in Roadbox B. There's one in Roadbox B, and there should be another one in the amp closet.
Okay, they're it.
They're the Fender Deluxe.
Okay. It's like big speakers?
The Fenders and Roadbox B.
Oh, like the actual amp.
Yeah.
Like guitars used. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, or we can run her up through the PA and back through the monitors if they want that. Or they could just put a monitor out there and plug right into
I
that.
think we should do the amp.
Okay.
Yeah, if there are any problems with running through.
The amp's the best sound.
Yeah. And then she's talking a white cord that goes into the roads.
I think it's the one that's in, it's in 119. It's what was just what they were using to patch it in before.
Okay.
Tell her as soon as I get this thing going, I
Okay.
can come up and help you guys.
Yeah, I can do it. It's just the amp setup.
Okay, yeah, just give her the amp and see if that's cool.
But how do I hook it up?
Just a guitar cable. There
Okay.
should be some in Roadbox A.
Roadbox
Hanging on the door.
Okay, yeah. And then the amp's in Robots. C. B. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And if you can, I mean, there should be another one of those DeVilles in the amp closet on 119. Because we have two of the exact same amp. There's the same amp that's in Roadbox B.
But nothing happened.
There should be another one in the closet of 119.
Okay.
And it should be on those shelves. So give him that one.
The one at 119?
Yeah, because
There's a
that.
big class going on in there.
Can you at least just pop in there and
Yeah.
see if it's in there? Because I haven't actually put my eyes on it.
It's a better amp than the one in.
It's the same one. It's actually a little more tricked out.
Okay.
You know, it's got a better speaker and new tubes, and it's a best. Like I modified it to be better than the stock one that we have for Poncho.
Okay, that's in the closet in 119.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I
But-
get keys for that closet?
Oh, sure.
I don't.
So that's, and then that's Poncho.
Cool.
I was so tired. I was like, I'm so confused. Okay. I really go get coffee at lunch. Can you get me one? Don't. Oh, I'm just seeing that more.
Dang it, it's not
He
working.
probably won't even be there. You know what, will you? Look, he is.
Dang it, I'm so sad.
Why?
My
So
Ableton
Macklemore was just sitting there
thing
yesterday.
does not work anymore. I can't use Ableton because it doesn't work because I creatively acquired the license and it doesn't work anymore. I'll have to pay $1,400 for this week.
He just said this.
Autograph my copy. Let's smoke.
Oh, yeah.
It's just coffee.
That's not
Coffee. You know how I had to,
Man, this
you know
sucks.
how that girl had like Walter yesterday?
Mhm.
I fell.
You did, are you okay?
I have a bruise. Like,
Dang it, I can't
I was
believe it's over.
laughing.
Oh, I see, gotcha.
Yeah.
What happened?
You can set the block on it.
I'm good. Where's my computer? I
If this
can't.
was musical chairs, I would have won.
Do you know what to do, Alec?
No, if this was real life, I'm
Am I gonna have to purchase it?
These people
I'm
are
not gonna
dead.
compliment people.
I'll see you.
My grandma got drunk and she was playing musical chairs and this lady like pulled the chair up.
She broke her hip.
Almost.
Seriously?
I don't know. Probably. Then she got, one time she was so drunk and she fell at the bounce house. Yeah.
Profile.
I was playing musical chairs and I just fell. Sometimes I just fall. It's okay to fall sometimes. As long as you get back up.
Somebody to
Come on, brother. Yeehaw! This is a country version. Yeehaw! Look, it's a gospel. It's not great.
me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody.
Alec, do you sing?
No. I mean, I can kind of fake it when I'm in the studio to kind of give people like guidance, you know, but I'm not, I can't sing. I can just be like, that part.
You can lip sync.
Oh.
Yo, Alex,
Oh, yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
You're listening to us?
I just popped in.
Okay. Are you, let me see, are you hearing me from here?
I mean, I'm hearing you through my stuff, so I can turn you up and down.
You still there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. How about now?
Yeah.
Can you, we can't see you.
Yeah, I don't see it might be something on my end.
Okay.
Although. It's a little dark.
There we go. You might have to set the threshold on the settings so that it's kind of like.
Yeah, get out of my cave.
So more lights.
Cool.
Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
that too dark?
No, a little bit lighter would be good.
Is that helping at all?
Yeah, that looks good.
Two. That help at all? Too much?
Oh, that looks good. Is that your webcam?
Yeah. Is it yeah, it's about as good as it's gonna get.
Is it on your end? Is it flipping back and forth?
Is it what?
Is it like when we talk? So when we talk, it should be that we're getting the camera, and then now you start talking.
Now I'm talking.
Cool. Yeah. So that way we can kind of do the editing on the fly. You know.
Okay. Well, I mean, everything on my end is really cool. I can hear you and see you guys. So.
Okay. How long were you listening to us when we were talking in here?
Hey guys. Like 12 seconds. Like it wasn't any kind of long. Like, oh, this guy. I don't know what he's doing. He can't even start a video conference.
I'll tell you, let me go find everybody because we've got. I think we're gonna have a pretty large group.
Okay.
And then we can edit all this stuff in post. This is you guys can go around and introduce each other while I have to go find everybody.
Hi, I'm Daniel.
Daniel.
I'm Alyssa.
Alyssa or Melissa?
Alyssa. Hi, I'm Lainey.
Hi, Lainey. You're kind of halfway cut out.
Yep.
I'm Julian.
Okay. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. This is a little earlier than my normal start to the day, but doing well. So.
Do you usually wake up?
Well, currently the studios I've been working at, things we're around like a noon or 1 start for the day.
Baby, I promise you it's gonna be on you.
The only time we ever do anything earlier than that is related to for TV. All the shooting schedules always start at like 8 a.m.
Your hair is so bad.
Okay, so we got more people starting to come in here.
Okay.
It's a nice setup.
Yeah, this is the new. You can see the various tape machines in the background here.
You got the Apollo.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to see. We've got our guitar boat with all the different kind of stuff, and there's another tape machine over to the back you can't see, and the amps and a couple of echolets, good stuff.
And did Cyrus move all his stuff over from his place too? So you got.
Yeah, so these 2 machines are his, and then there's also, he's got some keyboards, a Pro 1 and a Jupiter 8. And then all the all the box guitars are his as well. He's got these crazy ones that have effects built into the actual guitar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then this is a wah, so it's a hand wah. But yeah, there's like repeater and fuzz, and we've got some 12-string and 6-string and all kinds of crazy fun stuff.
Hey guys,
Hi.
we're in the film class next door. I thought we'd come out here and really try to chat with you guys.
Okay, so he's like, let's try to get as much space as possible.
I figure we can kind of
I don't know
like
whose
sit
bag that is.
in front of you.
We all can sit on the ground, but let's clear some space.
I'm just gonna sit here.
So we're gonna have
I'll grab a chair so we put a few chairs more.
we're gonna start having everybody wants to do it. We were gonna give people the option, and they all decided they wanted to do it. And we also have Courtney here behind me,
Hey, Courtney.
Hey.
and BC Campbell, the amazing. These are the other instructors.
Probably.
Can you see this? Yeah, you won't be able to.
You can also sit in front of your seat, actually. Hey guys, you're not gonna be able to see from there.
We got like a
Oh yeah.
All right. So I guess everybody's here. Do we want to go? Or there's gonna be a lot of people to introduce. Why don't we just start in with you, John, and you can maybe just talk about. So we have 2 classes going on this week. We have the contemporary songwriting class, which would be a little bit probably more the world that you're coming from, and just the kids are basically making pop music and writing top line, and we have kind of the idea with this class is kind of to give them the experience of writing sessions where we have people do individual tracks, and then we've been having them do co-writes. We Skyped in with A&R representative at Capitol, and he kind of gave us some feedback on the tracks, and now we're doing some original songs, and then kind of the second step that we would do to write updates and stuff, and once we get some direction from the A&R people, like recutting stuff and kind of going through that process. And then we have the music for film and games class in here as well, and they're they're really interested in writing for film. And I know you guys probably do a lot of that stuff at Conway too, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, currently Cyrus, mainly here at the lodge, he's working on an animated television show for Adult Swim that's coming out next year. And so he's been he's in charge of all the sound design as well as music for the show and the cue sheet. So we've actually been doing a lot of kind of film stuff, and a lot of what we've been kind of gearing our setup here at the house has been towards making sure that we can deliver, a finalized product for the film and TV people. And it's been interesting to see kind of a little bit of the differences as well as, some of the similarities that goes into that with, kind of delivering a record to somebody.
Well, and maybe you can give them a little bit about your background. I mean, a lot of these kids are getting ready to graduate high school and want to go, are thinking about doing a career in music, but your history coming up and how you kind of got to, and also where you're at today, and some of the projects.
I'll try to make this short, and please feel free to cut me off at any time. As far as me, I kind of got a little later start in doing kind of the audio or music industry world. I went to school, went to college for a completely different thing. Studied computer science and math, and kind of really didn't find anything that was piquing my interest when I got out job-wise. But I had always kind of recorded music since I was young. So, ever since I was 14 and older, I would play, do the garage band thing with friends. I got into DJing and kind of, beat making, producing, all kind of in a general few-year kind of interest. And, that it kind of kept a background role for me until I moved out into LA around 2004. And I don't know if this is the best pep talk, or I can't really think of what to say, but I asked a friend if I should go to audio school or something of the like to kind of learn everything. And he had told me, coming from my background, it was a little different because I was exposed to the recording process and different levels. And he was telling me that the more, I guess, appropriate use of money and time would just be to go get a job as a runner at a studio. And so the end of, I guess, the start of 2005, I got a job at Paramount, which is how I eventually met Alec. And, started out doing the thing, taking trash out, getting people coffee. I had, my friend gave me one of the better pieces of advice where he's like, go make friends with the tech. Anytime they have to do something that's kind of out of the ordinary or boring, if they have to fix something, see if you can be the fly on the wall, ask them if they, this was back in the day when we were still doing a decent amount of tape sessions. So, it's like, hey, if the tech's going to line the tape machine, go hang out and pick his brain and kind of see the process of that. And, through the whole process of getting a job as a runner, I got to do administrative stuff at the studio, all these other things that weren't really applying to songwriting, engineering, producing, but at the same time kind of helped me see a general picture of everything. But did the assisting, running, working at a studio thing for a few years, ended up going off and working with a producer from New Zealand for about 3.5, 4 years. Him and a business partner started a independent songwriting publishing company, and I was the kind of main engineer for all that, as well as a signed songwriter and producer. Things kind of ran its course with that. And from that point is when I got a job working for Atlantic Records. And so I worked for Atlantic for about 6 years, doing writing sessions, sometimes up to 2 a day, 16 hours, pretty much any artist that was on the Warner Atlantic roster I've worked with. Most of the top songwriters in LA, done sessions with them. And then about 2 or so years into Atlantic, I also started working at Conway Studios, which is one of the top studios in LA, if not the world. I'm a little biased. And in there, I've gotten to work, with a lot of the same people. There's a good crossover of the songwriters and their kind of like, I guess, reach with the different artists they're working on. But I've got to close out some, larger records. With Atlantic, I was mainly working at the beginning stages with the songwriters and the producers. And then at Conway, I seemed to fit into the process towards the end when we're finishing things for release that are actually, there's no more like, oh, we're not sure of this hook, or oh, we're not this, or oh, that. These are the, we're trying to meet a deadline. We're trying to get this record out, kind of things like that. And, I've had a good little run. You'll notice this the longer, you guys are just at the start of your kind of career and your journey. But, to be brutally honest, you'll have kind of up and down waves of where, things are going well, work's coming in, the projects you're working on are great. But there's also kind of an ebb and flow where you've got to kind of keep adrift during the down times and kind of play the long game versus, getting overly involved in either, whether things are up or down at the current moment. But yeah, so I've had a good run. Was nominated for a Grammy for my work with Iggy Azalea for the Fancy song. I just finished working. I assisted the mix of the last Red Hot Chili Peppers album, as well as the Fantasia record that's about to come out in this fall. Currently working with The Weeknd on his next record, and a lot of the pop stuff. And it's been a little over 10 years now. And it's been a interesting journey, but it's a really kind of special career to get into. And for you guys, I think it's important, no matter if you're on the technical side, if you're on the songwriting side, or where you fall in the whole spectrum of things, it's really good to kind of have a general idea of what happens in the process and in the roles that people play in the studios and in the labels and in the whole timeline of creating songs, because then it helps you kind of navigate the areas to get around. But long rambling answer, that's kind of my background. I just moved to LA, got a job as a runner at a studio, and kind of started learning and figuring that out from the get-go.
Hey, John.
Hey.
My name is Steve. I'm the instructor for the film class. Alec is coming right back in, but I wanted to ask you these songwriting sessions. Can you talk about the process of what it's like to, do what you do and then be working with these artists, and what songwriting sessions are like, and what that atmosphere is like, and the kinds of skills everyone is using in order to make stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there's, to me, the songwriting sessions that tend to go the smoothest happen when everybody kind of understands their role, and in a way doesn't necessarily overreach. And what I mean by that is that, so typically the way sessions would work at Atlantic is, I'm there to engineer. I'm not there to produce this record. I'm not there to do the songwriting. So as my role of engineering in these songwriting sessions, it's to kind of keep, we would have a time limit. So, we might have an 8-hour session. And so, you know, anything can get done in that 8 hours. The A&Rs don't necessarily have like a quantity over quality kind of issue. You know, it's like, you know, if you get a single 8-bar hook, but it's awesome, you know, they're just as happy as if you do 9 hooks that are like, well, we can maybe use some of these over tracks. But you know, basically the process is, you know, the songwriters are there to do the writing. The producers are there, depending on the arrangement they have with the songwriters, they're contributing to the writing, or they're just there to kind of, you know, add the production to the song. And, you know, the general process is you come in, and if it's just top liners, if it's just songwriters, what will usually happen is we'll have a kind of pool of music, whether they're 2 tracks or ideas or something of that nature, go through those, select ones that they're kind of feeling, and then, you know, get to work. If it's with a producer and they want to be creative on the spot, then, you know, the producer will have their, you know, tools and software stuff they use. So, you know, typically now it's, you know, laptop with whatever, you know, software you feel comfortable with. I feel that there's not one that's any greater than the others. It's more about your comfort level, your speed, your kind of familiarity. So if you're really good in Logic, if you're really good in Ableton, if you're really good in Cubase, if you're really good in Fruity Loops, all of those, you know, there's, you know, Bitwig, there's, you know, Studio One, you know, I'm sure there's more that I don't know. All those are professional. I've seen hit records made, big records made with all, you know, all one of those. You know, it doesn't even necessarily even need to record into Pro Tools either. You know, the Ableton, you know, a lot of the stuff I'm doing with The Weeknd right now, they're working a lot with Ableton. They feel that that's kind of fitting their needs and their workflow. So again, back to go to the original point, it's, you know, the smoothest thing is when everybody kind of is understanding what they're there to do, and then you don't have kind of these kind of derailments or conflicts that would slow a session down. So an example of that would be like, you know, we're doing something, and then I'm just there to engineer, but if I start chiming in about, you know, maybe you should change that word, or, is that the smart, you know, that kind of starts becoming, you know, you start crossing over in these areas that then can lead to kind of like, you know, all kinds of issues and conflicts. You know, you get into splits things and, you know, all these kind of other, I guess, problems that aren't related to, you know, writing a cool song. But, you know, it's really kind of a very fluid thing with the songwriting sessions. And I would say for you guys that, you know, the other common kind of error, or not really error, mistake, but I see it with a lot of the fresh or newer songwriters, is everything's really personable, and everything's really like, you know, all these songs are your babies. And, you know, it's a hard thing to kind of detach yourself from when you're being creative, and it does feel personal, a song you wrote, or everything like that, because especially in the pop songwriting game, there's going to be a lot of what I like to call workshopping or revisions to the song. So, you know, it's very rare that someone comes in and, you know, Lil Wayne's it or Jay-Z's it and spit something off the top of their head, and it's like amazing and it's gold, and you don't have to change it, you don't have to do anything to it. The opposite of the case is true. Usually it's like there's a really good 60 to 80% idea that's then chiseled down, molded into the final product. And, you know, the successful songwriters are very open to that process. And the ones that, you know, don't get a lot of placements or don't do well are the people that are like, no, this is my song, this is my baby, I'm not going to change it. And then, you know, there's no, anything I say, it's not like a hard and fast rule. You know, like I said, things are very fluid and things change. You know, it's important to, if you believe in something, you know, stick to it and be like, well, I really think it's stronger this way, you know, this and that. But at the same time, don't be afraid to explore and be open to kind of feedback, because I've seen it a lot of times where we'll start and we'll change and we'll go around and we'll come around and then we'll come back to the same point. But we wouldn't have known that unless we would have, you know, opened ourselves up to explore the opportunities or the differences that we could have gone. And so there's a lot of, you know, talking yourself into a circle back to the same point, but, you know, there's validity in doing that, because you might find a bit here that then ends up being, you know, a bridge or a B section of something that ends up being stronger than something you had originally done. And as far as that, I you know, my number one kind of, I guess, gripe with the writing sessions is just kind of when everybody's like not sure of their role and what they're there to do, because then it just kind of is like, well, what are you doing? And it's like, well, I don't do lyrics, I'm just melody. Okay, well, cool. Then, you know, and then you know, it's all about kind of getting the right workflow together so that you know, you want to be able to have that kind of very easy and seamless just feeling everything. Like, you know, it's like you want it to not feel like work, or you don't want to force it, you know, you just want it to be kind of natural. And a way to do that is to just, you know, be understanding of what you're there to do. And then when everybody's kind of in that mode, things flow, you know, the recordings, and, you know, you're not waiting to like hook a microphone up when you're ready to, you know, record an idea. It's already hooked up. You just go, boom, you lay it down, it's in, everybody knows what they're doing. You can listen to it, and you can add it and change it and do different things like that. So in a general sense, you know, the first step to things is kind of just be aware of what everybody in the room is there to do, what their roles are, and how you fit into that. And then as far as the songwriting process, you know, there's kind of top lining, and there's also kind of working from scratch. And, you know, we can kind of go further into different kind of processes and those workflows. I mean, did that?
Yeah.
I guess anytime I'm rambling, just, you know, feel free to rein me in here.
No, it's great. I think your real world experience here is probably very interesting to everyone here. I'm curious. It sounds like your world is very technologically driven. A lot of people feel comfortable with software. They're using software to make music. My question to you is, based off of what you've seen or experienced, what kind of like musical skills or instrumental skills or musical theory, all this stuff that deals with like musical skills, like what kind of things do you think are I don't know, like important to learn, or kind of like what kind of stuff would you recommend people like maybe focus on learning beyond this real world, you know, working in
real world? Yeah. You know, you'll never be hurting yourself the more kind of theory, you know. I came up, I was a little bit more adamant than I probably should about it, but, you know, I'm a punk rocker, you know, do it yourself. So it's like I, taught myself how to play bass. I, only ever learned how to record stuff by doing it, and as I've worked longer in here, the theory and kind of knowledge about other musical things that you would have learned if you would have, taken a discipline kind of study have come about. So you'll never be at a disadvantage the more theory and musical stuff, like especially in the songwriting aspect of it. Like if you're able to know what it takes to change the key of a song, to drop it down, if you're like, well, this is we're trying to hit a female placement on this, so we can write the song in this key, but we'll have to transpose it up, knowing those kind of technical theory things will really help you, knowing to play an instrument, I think, whether that instrument is your voice or, piano, guitar, drums, bass, is very valuable. I know a lot of people are still very piano and kind of acoustic guitar driven. I think if you can strip a song down to, either voice and an instrument or just voice only, and the song still holds, then you've got a winner. Like, because you can do that with like almost any of the major pop songs that are out right now. And I mean, you see it with people doing the YouTube covers things. Almost all the big songs sound good when someone just does a piano or guitar arrangement, and that's more pointing to the quality of the song versus any other kind of like music or technical knowledge. So theory, knowing how to play an instrument, put you a step above a lot of other people. Although I have to say that a lot of people are coming in to the process, at that. So it's, you got to be competitive in that level. As far as software and technology, if you're wanting to produce, and if you're wanting to mix and be in that kind of arena, then the more you know, the more you use the stuff in practice is going to help you out. Songwriting wise, I do see a lot more songwriters coming in that are very familiar with the technology, so they know they can cut their own vocals, scratch wise, or pretty good. They know how to create a session in Logic and make a track and things like that. It's not necessary, but to be familiar with what is going on versus to be absolutely clueless is going to help you out leaps and bounds, because it's like if you don't really understand some of the technical things that need to get done, then like when you're doing it, if like you don't understand what a vocal stack is or doubling or why you would need to do that, you might be caught at a disadvantage when you're working on stuff. Whereas if you're familiar, if you understand the technical layout of kind of some of how this is going on, you'd be like, cool, I've got my main single recorded vocal that we did a bunch of takes and we made a comp of, and we're really stoked on it, and it sounds great. Now let me go in and add some harmonies and some backgrounds. And the more you're familiar with that process, the more you know what you need to do, in a sense of not to overdo it, not to underdo it. What works for you, what works for the song. It's like, oh, we're trying to go after like a Katy Perry, Britney Spears thing. So, it's going to obviously need to be a more kind of stacked, tuned pop thing. Whereas if you're like, oh, we're going more towards a a solo country artist or a rock and roll kind of artist vibe, where then it's maybe not as pop glossy produced in that sense, and it's like, oh, we've got a really great single vocal with maybe a one other stack harmony and here and there, and it kind of fits. So to understand, you don't need to be super technical. You don't need to go and be like, oh, you need to adjust the ratio of the compressor. It's really, it's like, you don't need to be that deep unless you want to get into the production mixing side of things. As a songwriter, though, I feel it'll only help you the more you're familiar with the technical process of what goes into, a demo, what goes into what you are considering a final song, things of that nature. Because it's like when you're unsure, when you don't know, it gets left up to someone else, and it's like it might not get done in a way that helps you out or highlights your strengths or the strengths of the song or what's going on. And so it's like, you need to, like I said, you need to have a general idea of like the whole kind of idea of what's going on. And that's kind of back to what was nice with my upbringing, working as a runner and administrative in a studio. It's like, I got to see how labels dealt with studios, how producers dealt with artists, how A&Rs deal with, the execs versus, songwriters, producers they're trying to put together to get a song. It's like you see how everybody works, what the kind of process timeline is of things. And so, based upon things like that, how to kind of navigate your session, if it's something you need to put a lot of focus and time into, or if it's like, okay, cool, we've got an idea, we can put this to bed, we can move on, this is higher priority, this is what, this is going to be a later timeline, so we can come back to it. You can make decisions like that, and having a grasp of what, everything is going on, it'll help you going. And not just from like a technical standpoint, or it'll help your sanity in a sense, because if you're in a songwriting session and you do something that's awesome and the A&R comes in there and they're like, oh, this is so great, oh, we're going to send it to Rihanna and she loves it and she's going to cut it, and it's, you have to, not be like, oh, I'm rich, it's done, I'm gonna, I'm walking out of the room today, and gonna go to the Ferrari dealership, and I'm looking at houses and the hill. It's like, you got to understand where the timeline of stuff is, and especially when you guys get further down in your kind of education and knowledge of like the paperwork, pub deals, record deals, splits and all that, you'll understand where, finality really lies versus, someone kind of blowing smoke at you and everything like that. So that's what, having a general idea of the entire process helps keep you kind of grounded in what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, what the next steps are after you've got, a finished product in your hand that you're trying to actively get placed, or that it's your own artist stuff that you're trying to get a deal or you're trying to release. You can manage your expectations, because that's another key thing to this whole career is, like I said, it's a long play, and you can't get too wrapped up in the immediate kind of up and down of what's going on, and that's going to be financially, mentally, everything, because it's going to ebb and flow. And if I can just be as real as possible, like, it's a very rewarding kind of career. Like some of the stuff I've got to do is just absolutely mind-boggling, amazing. But it doesn't come without its kind of like moments of doubt and kind of like tough times, you know, like, and then you're, you know, there's definitely ways to make money. There's, you know, a very wide pool, but, you know, it's like, again, managing expectations. You're not going to be like instantly rich off anything, or it's, you know, it's in some sense a lottery, and in some sense it's also a grind. So, you know, you know, like I said, the more knowledge about the overall kind of helps you keep your sanity. I mean, to be honest.
John, Courtney here's got a question for you.
Hey, John.
Hey.
My name is Courtney. I'm one of the instructors for the songwriting side. And I just wanted, you touched on something really interesting, which is just about kind of understanding what, you know, like when you're in a session, what you know, understanding what you're asking for and kind of taking control. And we have a lot of, we have producers in here, we have songwriters, we also have some great singers and some artists and some band members. And I guess I just wanted to ask you to expand a little bit about working with maybe singers in the booth and like kind of what's helpful to you as far as like, you know, when you're working with a singer from the engineer and, you know, the kinds of things, the kind of advice that you would give to someone working with a singer in the booth, and also to our singers and artists who are going into the studio. And we're all in here together and kind of exploring vocal producing and asking for what you want, more reverb, more vocal stacks, like that kind of thing. So what kind of advice do you have for working with singers in the studio, and then from the singer perspective, like what they can expect in the studio? And
Okay, we'll start with like a working with singers perspective. As an engineer, you kind of always want to keep everything kind of like flowing and moving. Also, you know, and, you know, producer, engineer, everything, the line is very blurred. So it's kind of a lot of the same. And so, you know, it's when, you know, obviously a lot of you are singers, it's like, and it's a very naked thing, you know, like people feel very vulnerable and are often not very, you know, especially when you're thrown in with new people, you know, it's just naturally, it's kind of hard to be completely yourself, you know, you're guarded, you know, and it's just, you know, you've got to kind of feel out. So as an engineer and working on that side of the glass, so to speak, I really try to just make everybody feel comfortable and feel in a good space so that, you know, they're not thinking, oh God, this guy thinks I suck, or I'm out of key, or this is really hard, or, you know, or like, you know, everything's not sounding right. So, you know, you really, you know, you try to treat every singer as if they're, you know, Beyonce or Sia or, you know, just they're the focus, they're the star at the moment. And so, you know, not necessarily coddling them in a sense, but just getting them at ease and everything in those kind of sense. So anything you can do in that way, you know, however they want their sound, you know, if they're like, you know, I've gone a million, you know, I usually try to who's ever cutting the vocal in the session, I'll be like, oh, do you like to monitor with tune? I usually have a couple of reverbs, a couple of delays. That's kind of my template, you know, so there's some like vibe to the sound, you know, if they like it really thin, if they like to have, you know, an over compressed sound, you know, I won't do a lot of compression recording in, but you know, I can put a couple of plugins on a track so it sounds like it's more compressed and sounds more like a final vocal. So in a technical sense, I always try to make the vocals sound like it's coming off the radio. And, you know, in a sense, I know a lot of writers, a lot of singers, when they want to hear it back, they want to hear it back fully vibed, fully whatever. And the technology's caught up to where you can do that. Like, there's no reason to be like, oh, well, we're recording it in and then I'm going to mix it later. Like, you're mixing it as the recording part is part of the mixing part. So when I do a session, it's like, I mean, your sound, it's gold from the moment you step in the booth to start. You know, that's kind of especially in this day and age, you've got to be quick. You've got to be ready to go. You've got to have an idea of what it takes to like make a vocal in a song sound like that. And so, in a sense like that, you just want the vocalist singer to be comfortable. You want the sound to be, where it's, 90% in the finalized area. And then you want to kind of keep, you want to focus, and you want to be detail oriented, but you can't be so much that you stop the flow, because especially with the writing sessions, it's more about capturing and recording the ideas versus being like, oh, that snare's not right, or, oh, you didn't hit you're a little flat on the U. It's like, I think that the more you let those kind of things just kind of, you can always go back and get really detailed and tweak out on stuff after the fact. But when you're in the process of recording, you don't want to like slow it down, because the cliche stands true. People are, especially when you're being creative, things will come and go. And, if you aren't recording and you play something or you say something or you sing something, there's a good chance that you might not do it the same way again. And if you don't have a playback of that, you lost it. And, it's always kind of an unfortunate instance, and it's really not fun to be the guy or the gal that lost it because you weren't prepared to be recording. And and it's happened to me. I think Alec might have been there. We were doing this thing, and this really great piano, one of the world-class piano players, he didn't tell me he was going, he just went into, we had played a track to listen to it, and he thought that it was up and recording, and went in the booth and played this amazing piano, like 5-minute song. And as soon as he got done, threw the headphones down and was like, we were waiting for the confetti to drop, and he's like, "This is the best piano I've ever played in my life," and da 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 da. And I'm like, well, we were recording. I didn't know, So it pays to be kind of, especially with the writing sessions, if there's always something that's recording, whether it's your iPhone, voice memo, whether you got a mic up in the room, that's just like, if people, I'll always sneak record as an engineer or producer too, or lie sometimes to the vocalist, be like, oh, we're not recording this first take, we're just getting levels right. But we'll be recording it, because when people don't feel the pressure, you tend to get the good stuff. And that's the whole point of what I was saying earlier, is when you try to make the atmosphere and the environment feel relaxed, people will then kind of channel into the creativity. And so to flip that on the other side, as a producer, as an engineer, you want everything to be ready to go, to be seamless, to be comfortable, to have, talk to the people, know what they like, how they like to work. Someone as a, you know, and it's hand in hand. So if we go on the other side as a vocalist, understand how you get your best singing done, I think is one of the more important things. So like, if you're more of a person that likes to kind of sing for, you know, 3 to 5 takes, and then go back and look at those and kind of pick out the parts that you think are great, you know that's how you want to work. If you're more a person that likes to kind of go linearly down the line, so it's a lot of like forward and 2 steps back, you know, work like that. Just communicate that with who's ever recording you, so that they understand your workflow, and that will help you guys like really kind of hone in and kind of like, you know, make something that usually is the worst laborious part of recording is cutting and comping and getting vocals together. But if you and the engineer are understanding of how you want to work, then it becomes very easy, because it's like, you know, we can do it this way, take a break, look at things, go around, we can work down, and you end up getting a lot done and a lot quicker kind of path to the final product. And again, in the songwriting stage, I would say that be detailed and don't settle for things that you don't like, but at the same time, don't over obsess, because you're just going to kill any vibe or kill any kind of like flow to what you're doing. And I mean, as I'm sure you know, it's really hard to get the vibe back, or get back into a place sometimes when you get out of it. So, you know, I hate to be like cliche, like, hey man, don't kill my vibe, but you know, it is an important part of the process. And then, you know, as far as singing, it really is dependent on kind of personal style and preference and everything. So, you know, you're gonna have to, I guess, experiment to know what works best for you. Like, just as an example, I did a lot of stuff with Akon, and like his lead vocal sound is what, you know, it's kind of like a 3 stack thing. So it's like a middle, left, center. And he knows that's like for his main vocal, he knows that that's what he has to get. So what we'll do is we'll get the main one, and then we'll go back and we'll do the doubles, the left and right, after we've got the main one in the right place, because you always want to build up from something that is, you know, solid and final. Because if you build on something that you're not sure of, then all the stuff you put on excuse me, on top of it won't necessarily, you know, work out well, and you'll have to redo it anyway. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's like, as a singer, you know, understand where you want the different aspects of the song to kind of lie in. So if you've got a lead vocal part, you know, understand you want it to sound like a lead vocal, and this is going to be a ad lib, so maybe you put it, you know, in the mix and put it in the back. Or I want to do a harmony on this part, but I don't want it to be like taking away too much, so maybe it'll be like just a single track of vocal, or maybe just a double kind of stereo thing that kind of pops in under. And I think if you kind of understand and know those aspects in the technical sense, you can have a better communication with whoever is recording you, to be like, okay, cool, let me just get my left and right on this verse, and then I'm going to do a harmony on the back phrases, and I just want to do like a 2-stack, or I just want to do a 4-stack. And when you kind of understand, you know, the workflow the terminology, and you know, it'll be different. It's not, those aren't like the terms or whatever, but you know, it's all about just the communication at the start of the session, and kind of, you know, when everybody understands that you've got an idea of what needs to be done, then it's just like boom, boom, boom. It's like, you know, when I was working with songwriters at Atlantic, that you know, we worked a lot. Everybody was, you know, kind of understood the process. You know, we can go in and, you know, in an 8 to 12 hour day, I can have worked with the writers, written a song, cut a reference, got the artist in, and then cut like the main vocals with the artist to the reference, you know, all on the same day, just because everybody understands, you know, the process, what they have to do, and then what needs to be done to get that end result.
Like
and so,
you know, it's gonna be super advantageous for you guys as singers and artists, understand the language of the studio and say, you know, understanding what works best for your voice and how to get that, how to ask your engineer for that. It's gonna, you know, speed things up, but it's also gonna make you a better singer or a better artist or better musician to know what works with your instrument and how to ask for it and how to communicate. And also people in the industry will, you know, respect you more and say, hey, I want to work with that person because they get it, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, like, I'll just say this, the people that are difficult in whatever regards, whether they're just difficult in the booth or they're difficult to be, you know, they're a difficult songwriter to work with, or they're a difficult producer, or you're, you know, crotchety, difficult engineer, you know, people don't want to be around, you know, kind of grumpy, angry, you know, especially when you're trying to be creative.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it really does, you know, 80% of a lot of everything in the studio comes down to kind of vibe and communication. And it's like things derail and go off the tracks when, you know, those things are lost. So if you're not communicating something, it's like, oh, hey, we're having this an issue with the headphones, give me a second. You don't get someone going in the booth being like, why doesn't it sound right? You don't know what you're doing. You know, it's like you avoid moments like that. Or the song's in the wrong key, you know, you don't know what you're doing, you know, or I'm on the other end, like, you know, hey, can you sing into the microphone and, you know, maybe don't scream, or, you know, you just, you avoid these kind of things that can make you the day really bad.
Right. And for our engineers and our vocal producers in this room too, when you're working with, like, say, a vocalist or a songwriter or whatever, like, understanding, you know, you guys, it's going to be up to you guys to sort of, you know, look at your singer in the booth, and if they want something, or if they're struggling, or if they're starting to get down on themselves about something, you need to be able to figure out how to communicate with them and kind of understand what they need, so that you can keep the energy of the session up and that you can get the song done. So it's really important on the engineering side to understand what the vocalist needs as well.
You definitely need to do your psychiatry. You know, I mean, there's like I said, you know, and I make jokes about, you know, lying or you know, or whatever, but it's a definite kind of battle in a sense of you need to be reading people really well. Like that's one of the most invaluable skills that you'll learn, and it's not something that can be really taught. It's more of going to come through your personality and come through just your experiences. And so you know, and like I said, you're gonna make mistakes. Things are gonna go off the rails, and it's gonna feel like it gets out of hand sometimes. But you know, it's just like making a mistake with anything else. You know, it always makes everything a lot smoother when you just kind of like acknowledge it, move forward, keep going. So it's like, you know, when you linger on things, it's that's where the problems start to happen. But it's like you make mistakes, but just move forward with them, and that's a very key component. But to go back and touch on a little bit, like as a engineer, producer, vocal producer, and you're working with a vocalist, they might not know the terminology. They might not know what they want, and it's kind of your job to be like an interpreter in the sense, because not everybody knows that reverb is called reverb. Not everybody knows that delay is called delay. Compression is compression, or EQ is EQ. They just know that there are these things that make their voice sound awesome. And so, like, if you're looking at somebody and things aren't right, it's always good to be proactive and helpful. It's like, oh, well, is this what you're talking about? Is this what you need? Also, too, don't ever be afraid to make kind of like workflow calls. I think that's really the hallmark of a good producer and engineer, is being able to see if someone's struggling with something. You've got to find creative ways to say things sometimes. So, someone keeps, the reality is someone is not singing well and they're flat, and they keep hitting something that's flat, and you've been working on it for 20 minutes and it's driving you crazy because they just can't hit this note. You've got to find a creative way to not like insult the person or not make them feel bad or belittle them, and kind of get them to either push through and get this, or figure out a way to get around it and move forward. And those kind of skills are, again, not too many things that can be taught, and it's just more about your personality, because it's like, it's one thing to be like, oh, hey, can we do this again? You're flat. Or to be like, hey, I really like that one, but I think you could do it a little better. Can we try a few more? There's a very different kind of way that there's a fork there as far as like how this person will then react to what you just said. So one way you're just like, if you're the crotchety engineer guy, be like, that sucks, let's do it again, versus like, oh, hey, I really, I think you can do it better. You're sounding great. I think everything's cool. We just need to do it again. And that's very true. I just learned a master class in that with some very high profile producers and artists, kind of seeing how they do it with very big egos and very big names, and the same rules apply. It's like you're able to kind of keep it light, keep it moving. That way you get over these kind of road bumps you're hitting. And if you're doing a lot of vocals, if you're a singer, if you're vocal producing a lot, you're going to run into this problem once or twice a session. I mean, almost every session. And it's like how you're able to, circumvent or move through it is what's really going to help you. And again, it's about reading people. And, I can't stress, there for a while, there was a culture of like people wanting to, I don't know, not necessarily belittle people, or, it's just, there's a lot of bad attitudes, and having a good attitude on all around will just make everything go away. Like respectful, good attitudes never go out of style, and will always put you above, anybody else. Cause it's like, if you're the difficult, angry engineer or producer to work with, nobody wants to be there. Same side of the coin, if you're like the fussy, nothing ever sounds good, oh, this, you suck as an engineer vocalist, you're not going to get somebody, the engineer's going to be like, okay, yeah, I do suck, screw you, you go mix your song, you do what, whatever, it's like, you don't want to get into these kind of like ego battles or like kind of like, I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you, those are the things to really try to avoid, because when you do that, and most people do, and I'm, biggest names in the world, are just as respectful as the, no names. And when it works like that, it's, it's seamless, and it doesn't feel like work. It feels, it's fun. It's all the reasons why we do what we want it to do. So.
Right. Because you want to be the person that someone says, hey, I really like working with that engineer or that beat maker or that singer, because that's how you get your next job.
Exactly.
John, we have a student question, and if you guys have questions, raise your hand or get my attention. Okay, so Daniel has a question. He's one of our producers in the class.
Hi, my name is Daniel, and so it sounds like you're saying that it's kind of like 40% like technical skills and like 60% like people skills. So
yeah, I would almost even bump that to 80-20. Like,
okay.
Just in general, the music industry relies heavily on networking and things. So like, I've seen it work a lot of ways to where someone's come and done a session, and for whatever reason, the end product wasn't what the, whoever, say the A&R brought in some songwriters, producer, they do a song, it's not really that great, the end product, but the process, the way the people interacted was really good. And this A&R is like, we didn't get the song, or we didn't really get a great song out of that, but I really like the way these people work, and I know that they got it in them, so I'm going to bring them back, or I'm going to put them with this. Whereas if you came in and were, kind of difficult or had an attitude, they'd be like, well, these guys came in, we didn't really get a good song, and they had an attitude, so, well, let's just try something different, so.
Good to work with.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, it's about being good to work with, and open, and like I said, don't be, it's a fine line. It's like, don't be a pushover, stand up for things you believe in, but at the same time, don't
be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. And
all right, and one more quick question. So there's a lot of people in here that like make music, and how do we? What advice would you have for getting our music like used by people and artists in like movies or anything like that?
I mean, that's the $1 million question. I think, my studio partner and I kind of have this philosophy that you should always, it's never hurting you to always be kind of recording, or to kind of be making tracks, to writing songs, even if you feel that it sucks and that whatever, like, just see it through. If you're making a beat and it's like, oh, I've got a 8-bar thing that's cool, but I just can't figure out the rest, like, don't be afraid to save it and move on, and do that, do that every day. And then all of a sudden you start having this kind of a catalog of things you can go back to, so that, when an opportunity arises that's like, hey, we're really looking for like kind of a vibey track with like some kind of like big drums and like a bass line. And you'd be like, oh, I kind of started something 2 months ago that was that vibe. And then you bring it up and you're re-inspired and you're able to add to it. I think having a kind of catalog or something of that, like if you're a songwriter, having songs you've written, whether they're your artist stuff, whether they're just songs you wrote that you would be happy to like give to somebody else. I think doing that on your own and having a catalog of songs like that, and being able to just have access to that. So when you do meet someone, like again, connections and just kind of like relationships, when you do meet someone and they're like, oh, you know, what do you do? This or that, you're like, oh, well, you know, I'm a producer. And like, oh, well, do you have anything I could hear? And you'd be like, yes, I do. You know, versus, oh, I'm a producer or I'm a songwriter. Like, oh, do you have anything I can hear? And be like, yeah, you know, I'm working on some stuff and, you know, I'd love to come in and do a session and be like, well, I'd have to hear, you know, people need to hear stuff. So, you know, have a SoundCloud, you know, or whatever, you know, kind of easy way for people to access stuff available to them. And then, you know, as far as getting your stuff heard, you know, that's the trick. You know, in this day and age, a lot of what I saw with the people at Atlantic, you know, we get tons of music sent to them every day. I mean, there's probably 15, 16 A&Rs, and, you know, it's like all they ever complain about is, you know, oh, I've got 800 emails in my inbox that I got to go through. And, you know, a bunch of those are probably tracks, and a bunch of those are probably tracks from people that already got, you know, publishing deals or songwriting deals on top of that. So the cold calling, you know, it can still work. I don't think it's necessarily the best bet. Your best bet as kind of either a producer or artist is you've got to hustle. You've got to be kind of out there doing your thing. It's like nobody's gonna bring you an awesome project to work with when you haven't done one before or have recognition. So it's not like as an engineer, as a producer, they're not gonna be like, oh man, you know, we got this really great Rihanna song. We just need somebody to like redo the track. Hey, what are you doing? Can you redo this track? You know, it's like, that's not gonna happen. But, you know, what is gonna happen is, say you find someone that can demo a song in this style or whatever, and you make this track and you get this demo and you have it there ready to go, and then you take that to somebody and be like, yeah, I've been working on this, you know, it's kind of like in this kind of style, in this vein, you know, then that'll kind of work for you. So as far as getting your music out there, getting it heard, I would say do it yourself. Don't expect anybody to bring anything to you. Don't expect things to like fall in your lap. Like, be recording, be writing, be producing every day. Have a kind of catalog of stuff that you can easily reference, whether you can point to people online, whether you've got, you know, on your phone or on a drive on your computer to play back when you go somewhere. And then, you know, be proactive in doing it, because, you know, the last 3 signees I can remember at Atlantic, they got the interest on their own. So like Charlie Puth, for example, like, you know, before the thing with Ellen and all that, you know, he was making YouTube videos of him playing and singing and doing things like that. And the attention, the draw was there. Someone pointed one of our A&Rs to his channel, and they're like, oh, check this kid out. You know, he's got a really good voice. I like his song. And then it went from there. They checked that out. There was some other stuff, you know, and then they brought him in, and, you know, he was good to work with. He's easy to go. Snowball things, you know, he writes a great song for this Fast and Furious movie, and the next thing you know, he's got a #1 record. He's a, you know, big star. And that's part of the lottery aspect of everything, is that, you know, it's going to come down to that. But it, good luck is just being ready when opportunities are there. So as far as exposure, getting heard, I can tell you one thing and it'll change tomorrow. Like, it used to be have, 100,000 SoundCloud views or plays or subscribers, or it used to be YouTube followers, used to be MySpace. You guys are too young for that.
That is.
Yeah. It used to be, in the old days, it used to be having a demo made that you could mail into the record labels or accost A&Rs at shows and be like, listen to my demo, that kind of thing. But it's tough. It's a really, I think that's probably like the number one question for all you guys is like, how do I make it? How do I break in? And there's no one tried and true way to do it. It's like the path that I've ended up at, is different from kind of where I started. And it still kind of changes. I've enjoyed being, in the different phases. So, I've done artist things, been in bands, produced, just engineered, mixed, all kinds of things like that. And it's just, you just got to kind of be, working and be in the scene and, making the relationships and the connections and keeping those. Like every job that I've had here in LA in the studios has literally come from the relationships with people that I've made. The education and the school and my background and previous experience were all great. It kind of showed a level of competency and knowledge. But, I got the job at Atlantic because one of the guys that was a runner when I was a runner at the studio ended up being the head engineer for the Atlantic. And, I hit him up and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for work. And he's like, oh, we need a new guy at Atlantic. And it's like, boom. And the studio manager at Conway was another coworker that I had in various, positions that I kept in, contact with, good things. And then here and there, a phone call comes in and it's like, oh, hey, we're needing another guy that knows, I know you know a lot about, have a lot of experience with tracking and recording and producing, and we need somebody that can fill those roles. And it was like an opportunity came up, and I was prepared through the 7-8 years that I've just been recording and doing stuff. And I was like, yeah, I feel comfortable jumping into this, giant studio with gear I've never worked with and stuff like that. But it's like you just kind of be, it's a grind, you got to be hustling. If you're not that good at like kind of promoting and kind of hustling in some degrees, it's going to be difficult for you because you've got to beat people over the head about things sometimes. And, and don't get discouraged because you're going to, for every yes, there's going to be 10 no's. So just understand that. And like I said, as a career, you guys are all looking to do this, as a career, as something that's like not a hobby. You've got to really understand that there's going to be an ebb and flow, and to not look too hard into, the very immediate success or failure, and
all right, thank you.
That's great.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
I know you said it was more of like what you're comfortable with, the software you're working with. But what do you see most producers working with, and what do you use?
Honestly, like I would say the big five. So Logic, Ableton, Pro Tools, Cubase, Studio One, Fruity Loops. I guess that's 6. It depends. Like I know in the rap world, Fruity Loops has been kind of the thing of the moment. And partly I think that's because you're able to do certain things very easily and intuitively in that one. And that's the thing. Almost all of these softwares, they all can do the same thing. And it's just a matter of how easy the processor workflow is to do it and how you know to make it happen. So like in Fruity Loops, for example, to do like a snare roll where it like pitches down and it's like, you know, it's like you just draw it and it's really easy and you can make it happen. And, you know, to do that kind of like 16th hi-hat kind of like thing, it's really easy. Whereas in Pro Tools, you'd have to go in and do it with MIDI and like tweak on it a bit. Fruity Loops, it's just like a, you know, you do the thing. And same thing with like Ableton, you can set a loop, pull in some audio, and it automatically like time stretches it and, you know, things like that. So I've seen them, like, again, I've seen it all. There's not one preference as far as creating. So, I mean, Ableton's great, Logic is great, Cubase, Fruity Loops. For cutting vocals, I prefer Pro Tools still. It just the quickness and the kind of where I need to go to get to that kind of shimmer, that kind of whatever. It's just very intuitive, and I think Pro Tools is designed as more geared to be like a multi-track, you know, studio in a box, like taking the console, taking the gear, putting it in there like that. Whereas Ableton and some of the other ones are more like, we're taking this rack of synths and this drum machine and all this, and we're putting it in the box so that you can access it and do stuff with it really easily. So yeah, and I mean, in all the pop stuff, like I said, big records were done on any of those 5 things. The final mix, the final session, I still think it's ending up in Pro Tools. And I know for film and everything as well, Pro Tools is still kind of the default. But I do have some things in the wings. You know, I think Ableton's about to release a different version. It's not going to be Ableton Live. I think it's going to be like Ableton HD or something, where they're making a push to kind of go after the Pro Tools market kind of people. So some of these other ones that are mainly geared for just production and creation might start stepping into like trying to steal a little bit of Pro Tools multi-track mix world. So, you know, like again, another thing for everybody that's interested in the technical stuff is, you know, it's really good to know one thing really well, but also understand that things are going to change, you know, with technology, with music creation, it's forever changing. And you can't be like the old guy yelling for kids to get off your lawn because, you know, you only use this, you know, and that's the way it is. You know, that's the one main graph I see with a lot of engineers and producers. It's like, well, we did it this way, I do it this way, this is the only way that sounds good, it's the only way it's going to work. If anybody ever tells you that, it's complete BS. Because there's many ways to get the same result. And, you know, if you don't embrace kind of new technology, you're going to get left in the dust. Because when I started, you know, the most technologically advanced thing was, you know, Pro Tools 5, which, you know, and there were no real soft synth keyboards. If you wanted different keyboards, you had to have 12 different keyboards hooked up, synced up to MIDI. You know, some of them wouldn't even have MIDI. You'd have to use this thing called control voltage. And like trying to sequence something with that is just, it's this infinitely complex process than it is now, to where you can pull up a thing, play it in on the keyboard, or draw it in with MIDI, and it's you know, seamless and it sounds good. So, you know, I think it's very beneficial to be comfortable and know one thing real well, but don't ever be chained to it. Don't ever not kind of embrace something new just because it's unfamiliar. And I think that's a good thing for all the songwriting and the process as well. It's like, if you have a process and a way of writing a song, you know, understand that and be very good and comfortable with that. But also, don't be afraid to try new stuff, to step out of your bounds, because whenever you push yourself in those ways, you get the happy accidents, you get these new things you learn. You know, it's like if you're a singer and you only ever want to go in the booth until you've written everything down. You never want to go in there until it's like words are 100%. You know, maybe try going in there and just doing the, like, for lack of a better term, the like verbal diarrhea, where you're just like, ah! You know, it's you know, try that way, because you know, you might get on something and then you come back, you know, or if you're always a verbal diarrhea or booth writer person, you know, maybe take the time to like write something out one time and see how that works for you. And it's like, you know, you don't, you know, it's about exploring, and being comfortable with the exploration is where you're going to really tap into something new and different, which is, you know, also part of the game that you're doing. It's like, you guys are, you know, you're trying to write songs and trying to make records that are big songs or big records. Just know that there's 70 years of that before you, and many cultural and stylistic kind of what's in vogue now, what's in vogue later, what's this and that. And so, you know, you've got to be conscious of, like, you know, having a grasp of the basics and the fundamentals, but also be willing to step over into the future and find the new territory, or the ways to reshape these old things into something new. And I mean, that's the ultimate, you know, trick, is to, you know, everyone's always like, oh, we're on some new stuff, or I got a new style, you know, and it's like, if you look at the kind of history of, you know, pop music and songwriting, and what is successful at the moment, you know, it changes. Like mid 2000s, you know, we were coming off the boy band, the single singer kind of bubble. So, you know, it was like the Britney and Christina and Justin was breaking out, you know, and you look at that, and then it's like you move up a few years, or you move up to current day things now, and it's like, you know, the EDM kind of aesthetic for pop music is what's the style now, you know. But flashback 30 years, it's like the disco aesthetic and the dance aesthetic was what was in pop music and driving the stylistic and things like that. So it's like, you know, you've got to be open to new technologies and new workflows, but at the same time, you know, don't be lost in the sea of possibilities. You know some things really well, know how to use them, but don't be, you know, kind of chained to them, because, you know, we've been using Pro Tools for 15 years, pretty industry standard, you know, but, you know, I can see, especially if they kind of don't support the community like they're kind of been doing the last few years, you know, I can see there's something moving in on their territory.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
I have one more.
So John, we have like 5 minutes before we have to let these guys go, but we have one last quick question for you.
So you said that some people are difficult to work with. As far as like famous people and singers and whatever, who would we know who is difficult to work with?
Wow, there's a very I think I've signed an NDA about this that I can't. No, it's a non-disclosure agreement, by the way. Be very familiar with that term. Yeah, naming names. I really would hate to do that. I'll say this: it's a very strong 85% of people, regardless of their success, are great, are awesome people, are nice. And that goes, top of the level, A list to D list. And then you got your 15% of yahoos that think they're cooler than they are. I'll just say this: it tends to lean towards kind of like maybe people that are kind of into substance abuse, in a sense, whether if they're a little bit alcoholic or, with a lot of the rappers, the whole lean stuff. Like, I just noticed, like if you're working an 8-hour, 12-hour day and someone's like drinking all day or lean all day or whatever, it's, the things kind of go off the rails after about 6 hours. And well, that's what I mean. Another piece of advice for you guys, it's like there will be a fine line between work and party all the time in the studio and in the music, and like you've got to learn how to like manage that as well, because it is nice to like have some drinks or and it keeps everybody loose and like things like that, but it's like you don't want to sit there and kill a half a bottle of vodka when you're trying to write a song. Or, I'm just being honest. I've seen, don't be the person that ends up passed out on the couch drunk at your session, and
okay.
And that's good message.
All right.
Yeah. I know, but I mean, you gotta stay on it.
We're actually gonna let these guys go to lunch.
Okay.
And we ran out of oxygen here about 20 minutes ago.
Thank you.
Cool. Are you around today?
Yeah.
I'll give you a call in a little bit.
Okay, cool.
All right, thanks, John.
Yeah.